So let's begin with a brief body scan. Could you just lie on your back with your legs extended down and your arms by your side with your eyes closed? And from the backs of your heels all the way through to the back of your head, could you notice which areas feel heavier on the floor? So if you were lying in the sand, for instance, where would you say the deepest impressions will be created? So where do you feel your brain's attention goes to at this point? Could you make a note of that, and then we'll see how that changes. So when you're ready, could you bend your legs so your feet are flat on the floor? And could you place your hands on top of your rib cage? And just start to breathe naturally. And as you breathe naturally, notice if both ribs or both sides of your rib cage move freely, or does one side feel more stuck or stiff compared to the other? And once you've noticed if there's any movement there, or if it's on one side more than the other, could you now start to make your hands a bit heavier on your ribs? So as you breathe into your hands provide a bit of resistance. So now they're heavy hands that your ribs are breathing into. And as you now start to make some deeper breaths, could you breathe deeply into your ribs, but allow your hands just to create that mild resistance, that heaviness on your ribs. And then as you exhale, could you use your hands to guide your ribs down towards your pelvis? And notice as you do that, can you feel your chest and your shoulders moving with your rib action? As you breathe deeply into your ribs, keeping your hands heavy on your ribs, let your ribs start to spring back to where they started off. And again, as you exhale, guide with your hands your ribs towards your pelvis, noticing your chest and your shoulders follow. So here, we're starting to create movement in your rib cage so that as you exhale, your ribs are drawing down towards your pelvis, starting to create more of that fetal or that rolling of your shoulders forward. So make that the last of your movement there in your ribs as you just allow them to settle back to its start position. Now, if you want to keep your hands on your ribs, please do. Or if you want to place them by your side, it's whatever suits you. But now, could we bring your focus to your pelvis? So now could you take a big inhale, and as you inhale, could you tip your tailbone towards the floor, allowing your belly to expand like a balloon, noticing a very mild contraction or arch in your lower back. And then take as many breaths as you want to slowly return all the way back to your start position. When you get back to the start, could you take an extra breath here? And with your out breath, just notice what residue tension you can fully let go of in your lower back. And again, as you start to inhale and arch, tipping your tailbone towards the floor, expanding your belly. Can you breathe deeply into your belly and notice, can you breathe deeply into your ribs too? And then again, as many breaths as you want, slowly. Let everything soften through your back as your pelvis comes to rest in neutral again. And always take that extra breath here just to notice what else you can fully release. What are you still holding on to that you can let go with an extra breath out? And then from here, let's reverse this pattern of tightness. So again, if you want to place your hands on your ribs to work with your ribs and your pelvis, please do. So let's take a deep breath here to prepare in neutral. And then as you exhale, can you sink your belly? Can you draw your breastbone and your tailbone towards each other? So tuck your tailbone up and under, feeling your back lengthening and flattening into the floor as everything tightens through your front. Notice, are your ribs moving with this tilting of your tailbone? And then let everything soften through your front with as many breaths as you want to come all the way back to neutral. And then just let everything go. And when you're ready, let's do one more here. So as you breathe deeply into your belly in neutral, then as you exhale, can you sink your belly and let your breastbone and your pubic bone and tailbone tuck up towards your breastbone, so allowing your back to flatten into the floor. So notice everything's tightening through your front as your back learns to lengthen and let go and release. And then as many breaths as you want, just to come all the way back to neutral and rest. And again, always take an extra breath here just to notice there's always something left in the tank that you can just let go of. And then from here, could we now start to notice if there's tension through your waist muscles? So could you place your hands on your waist? So just on that fleshy part between the bottom of your rib cage and the top of your pelvis. So just feel that fleshy part of your waist. With your legs bent still, could you take a nice inhale to prepare? And then as you exhale, could you slide your right hip towards your right armpit? And as you do, can you feel under your right hand just that little bit of change in tension and tone in your right waist muscle? And notice your left waist has to lengthen to make this movement happen. And then slowly, as if your hands are near a steering wheel and that's your pelvis, can you bring your steering wheel pelvis back to neutral? And then when you're ready, could you just do a couple more of these? So on your exhale, on the right side still, sliding your right hip towards your right armpit. And just check that the tension and tightness is just coming from your waist and your back is not arching or flattening. If it is, can you let your back just soften? Just let the tension come from your waist muscle. And again, slowly release the tension through your right waist muscle as your pelvis levels off to neutral. Now this time, could you place your arms on the floor alongside your body? And as we slide your right hip towards your right armpit, could you slide your right armpit down towards your right hip and allow your head to roll with the movement? Again, keep your back soft. Don't let your lower back arch or flatten. Just go to where the end of that movement's still in your control, and then slowly release your waist muscles, release the muscles all through the sides of your body as your shoulders, your head and your pelvis return to neutral. And again, just do a few more of these in your own time. So staying on the right hand side, as you exhale, slide your hip and armpit to get towards each other, allowing your right arm just to slide along the floor. Notice your head moves with the action. And notice that this is actually like the side bend, but we're doing this on your back instead. So see how we can just change these movements, create some variations for your brain to stay fresh and alert and awake to these movement patterns. Now, on your next exhale, as you draw your hip and your right armpit towards each other, letting your head roll along the floor with the action. When you get to the end of that contraction, can you stop there? And then can you take 2 or 3 big breath cycles and focus on breathing deeply into your left waist and the muscles in between your left side of your rib cage. So getting your brain to notice those areas exist. And when you take big breaths, can we get activity and movement happening there? So breathing deeply into your belly, into the left side of your waist, in between your ribs on the left side. And when you're ready, very slowly, bringing your pelvis and your shoulders back to neutral so they level off, and allow your head to roll like a football along the floor too. And then just take an extra breath here in neutral. And with the out breath that you take, again, what else can you release? Can you let everything go? Any tension in your back, your shoulders, maybe your jaw? Is it your glutes? And then when you're ready, just to bring awareness to the movement in your waist again. If you found it helpful, could you place your hands on top of that fleshy part again between the bottom of your ribs and the top of your pelvis? And then on your next exhale, this time, could you just draw your left hip towards your left armpit? So just moving your hip at this point. Can you feel that the muscles on the left side of your waist are tightening as the right side has to lengthen and release to make this movement happen? And then very slowly and smoothly, allow your pelvis to return back to neutral. And with an extra out breath, just notice what else can you fully release. Allow your brain time to just go and let go. And again, let's do one more with your hand, feeling that change in tone through your left waist muscles. So as you exhale, could you slide your left hip towards your left armpit? Again, can you feel that tension under your left fingers as your right side lengthens and let goes? And then release all the way back. And let everything rest. So now with your arms by your side, keeping your shoulders nice and settled on the floor, let's increase this level of contraction through the left side of your body. So let's take that nice inhale to prepare, breathe into your belly, into your chest and ribs. As you exhale, slide your left hip and left armpit towards each other. Feel that full contraction as your head goes with the movement. Feel it all through the left side of your body as the right side lengthens and let goes and releases. And again, as many breaths as you want. Start to release that tension through your left side as your shoulders, your head and your pelvis return to neutral. And then here, just take an extra breath and let that exhale just release and let go of any tension that you're still holding. And again, let's just do a few more of these in your own time. So inhale to prepare. As you exhale, sliding equally the same amount of movement, your left hip and armpit towards each other. Again, really notice that shortening through your left side, which means your right side has to lengthen to make the other side tighten. So as one side contracts, the other side lengthens. And again, as many breaths as you want, just allow your brain time to absorb this information and remember how to fully release the muscles on the left-hand side of your body. And again, just repeating this movement, sliding down, noticing shortening. Can you feel how we're starting to create more of like a bowing effect along your spinal column? So we're addressing the muscles that feed all the way to your vertebral column. And so as you return back to neutral here, on your next exhale, as you draw your left hip and armpit towards each other, at the full contraction there, as long as it's comfortable for you, just check that your lower back isn't arching or flattening into the floor, or the tightness is coming from your side. In that full contraction on the left-hand side of your body, can you stop there in that contraction and then focus on breathing 2 or 3 big breath cycles into the right side of your torso? So breathing into your right waist, into the space between your ribs. Again, breathe into your belly. Let your brain notice and search out these areas where we can breathe into this space area. We want to start to generate more of your awareness that when you breathe, we use all of your rib cage. And after 2 or 3 of these breaths, take as many breaths as you want to level off your pelvis, level off your shoulders and bring your head back to neutral. And then from here, can we integrate this? So can we now get your brain to put this entire sequence together? So choose a side that you'd like to do first, but could you take an inhale to prepare in neutral? Then as you exhale, can you draw the same hip and armpit towards each other and let your head move into that contraction? So roll with that movement. As you inhale, start to breathe deeply into that contracted side as you bring your head, shoulders and pelvis to neutral. And then as you exhale, can you draw into the other hip and armpit, pull them together. Again, notice that expansion through the other side, keeping your back soft, so don't let your back overarch. And then again, as you inhale, breathe into the side you've just contracted to assist with opening and lengthening that side as we now draw into the other side. So again, drawing your hip and armpit towards each other. And then again on your movement, can you go into the other side? So we exhale as we draw your hip and armpit towards each other, and then take a really big prolonged in-breath as you move through center. And then as you exhale, just start to draw the same hip and armpit towards each other. And then slowly start to come all the way back to neutral and just rest. And then from here, when you're back into neutral, let's just teach the muscles along your lower back and also through your neck and the entire root of your spinal column, how they can safely twist. And again, using that principle, when one side contracts, the other side lengthens or relaxes. So could you imagine that you've got a marble that's sitting right in the center of your pelvis? Now, could you start to roll that pelvis and tip it into one side of your hip? So maybe you want to roll into your left side of your hip. So if you slowly start to imagine you're tipping that little marble into your left hip. And when you get as far as you comfortably can you start to tip that marble back from your left hip all the way through to the center of your pelvis. Just notice when it's in the center, and when it gets there, at that point, can you now start to tip into the other hip? So it may be the right hip you're rolling into this time. So again, as you roll into that hip, just go to where it's comfortable for you. This is not turning into a stretch. It's purely teaching your pelvis to roll like a beer barrel along the floor. So again, just keep rolling very slowly and mindfully from one side through to the other side, but just noticing when you hit the center. So when your pelvis is in neutral, allow your brain to recalibrate and notice that. And just notice that as you focus on that movement of your pelvis, your knees just follow naturally. So they're going to be, your feet are going to roll in and out on the different sides. But the focus here is as your pelvis tilts like a beer barrel along the floor, one side of your waist muscles will shorten, the other side will lengthen. And notice as you go into the other side, one side of your waist shortens, the other side lengthens. So as you walk and as you move, this is the natural movement pattern that should be created in your hips. And this is why we're recreating it here now. And notice, as your hips and your legs go in one direction, could you allow your head to roll in the opposite direction? So now we're creating a gentle spinal twist. As your nose and your knees look towards the ceiling in neutral, let them be timed so that they come into neutral and your brain registers that. And then when you're ready, start to roll your hips and knees and your pelvis in one direction as your head rolls in the opposite direction. And just keep this movement going. Maybe slow it down. Could you then speed it up? But notice every part of the back of your head in contact with the floor as you roll from one side to the other. And remember, can you notice what's happening through your neck? Can you feel that as you roll your head one way, notice the muscles on one side of your neck are lengthening and on the other side they're shortening. And then notice how that's reversed as you take your head in the other direction. And then when your head's looking one way and when your pelvis is tilting the other way and it's in a comfortable position to stop, could you hold that movement there and then breathe deeply into your belly, into your ribs, into your waist that's lengthened and expanded, and into your chest. And then very slowly, as you exhale, just bring your nose and your knees and your head back to neutral. And then slowly tilt in the other direction. Take your pelvis in one direction, your head in the other. When you get to the end of that comfortable range, could you then again expand and breathe into your belly, into your ribs, into your chest, and into that waist that's lengthened and long. And then again, very slowly, come all the way back to neutral and rest. And when you bring your head and your knees back to neutral with your pelvis, could you just do one big inhale and arch as you tip your tailbone, breathing into your belly, into your ribs, into your chest? Can you press both shoulders into the floor to expand your chest even further, allowing your chin to tuck in? As you exhale, could you draw your breastbone and your pubic bone towards each other as you flatten and release your back into the floor? Notice how your shoulders start to roll and peel off the floor. Notice your chin jutting up towards the ceiling. And again, as you inhale and arch, drawing your chin in, pressing your shoulders back, as you tip your tailbone down to the floor, breathing in, expanding all the way through your front as the back of your body tightens. And then sink your belly, draw your ribs, your breastbone, and tuck your tailbone up and under to create that flattening, lengthening release as the front of your body tightens and shortens. And then as many breaths as you want, come all the way back to neutral and rest. And when you return to neutral, could you just take an extra big breath here into your belly, your ribs, your chest? And as you exhale, just let everything let go, release, become really heavy on the floor. And then finally, could you lower your legs to the floor? And as you lower your legs to the floor, just bringing your awareness to the back of your heels and then travel all the way through the back of your body to the back of your head. And notice what's the impression like on the floor now compared to what it was like at the beginning. So we said that you were lying in the sand and we were looking at where that impression was created in the sand. Is that still the same now or has it changed? Do you feel that your brain space is noticing more muscles, and is it allowing the ones that were very dominant at the beginning just to release that bit more? So now your brain is able to work more efficiently and notice that there are more muscles that can be used with your movement.